Hi everyone, I am Hannah from Spiritual Tarot, and today I just wanted to share a little bit of wisdom with you guys that I kind of just gathered in a meditation I did a while back. So every time I begin a meditation, I always ground myself. That is pretty standard practice, to kind of just envision yourself reaching down into the earth, that you have roots and that you are just reaching and reaching deep into the earth to just kind of ground and root yourself, so that when you begin to connect with the higher energies and raise your vibration, they're kind of just not lost out there in space, that you still are grounded and rooted here. Oh, I'm sitting on this and it's hot. Okay. So, when I was doing this visualization, which is something that I do every time, I really started connecting with tree energy. And tree energy is something that some people really have a natural connection with. I personally love trees, and I've tried to kind of, connect and communicate with them before, but kind of haven't really felt that deeper connection to them. And I, just kind of started channeling this understanding of what we can learn from trees and from tree energy, and I just felt like it was really worth sharing. Um, so basically, the important lesson that I learned is that trees are a great representation of like in our physical reality of a being that embodies both the masculine and the feminine, um, you know, archetypes and two halves of a whole within one being. And, that is really true for every being. Everyone kind of has that mix of yin and yang. But in trees, we are able to see the both female and male energies coexisting and working together, to kind of create this being that is not only like self-sustaining, but also just has this incredible connection between the earth and the sky and the spirit realm. So I think that like the first important kind of thing to note is just how sacred, trees are and what they really represent. Like, we can see our own selves in them in the way we stand. So, we have our connection to the earth in our feet, and our head, where the crown chakra is our connection to the spirit world and to the greater global consciousness. So, in essence, they are like a reflection of ourselves. And I guess what I was really kind of understanding about them was that, we have one point of consciousness, um, and that is in our heads. So we kind of are living in our head, and that is our main focal point of consciousness. And you know, I guess the best way of understanding that is if you could imagine that your eyes were down at your feet, how different the world would look to you, being like down at, like, if you're basically, your consciousness point was down at the bottom, and you could feel the world above you, but you weren't really seeing it. or like the idea of having eyes in the back of your head. Our point of consciousness is where it is for a reason. Trees, on the other hand, I really feel like they have two points of consciousness. And there's one at the base of the tree where the roots are reaching out. And that's kind of up for debate. I kind of feel like that extends out into the roots. So, and then the other is at the top of the tree in the leaves or in a plant. All plants have these like two, you know, points of where they are kind of reaching for the things that the being needs. So the base point at the ground, where the root's primary motivation are to not only ground the tree into and root it into one spot, and to keep it upright so it's balancing and keeping it rooted and grounded in one spot. There's also searching for water. So the roots, their job is to penetrate the earth deep, deep down in searching for water and for nutrients. So there's like your first kind of polarity of yin and yang. So you have the tree who, is kind of taking on this very male role of penetrating the earth, and the earth, who, in all intents and purposes, is this kind of female giving, um, you know, just entity who is providing water and nutrients for the tree. So you have this dynamic where the tree's consciousness within the roots is reaching out and grounding and just digging deep within the earth to find the sustenance that it needs. Um, and then kind of extracting that and pulling it out into the rest of the tree's um, body, I guess you could say. And then we have our second point of consciousness, which is in the top of the tree in the leaves, and that is the point of receiving. So at the top of the tree, we have a female aspect in the leaves that is actually reaching towards the sunlight. And you have the trees or plants, flowers, they all do this, where they turn to face the sunlight, and they're really just angling and looking to receive the warmth and the nutrients that are coming through light. And then they're transmitting and transmuting that energy into sustenance in order for the plant to grow. So you have these two aspects of the tree working in harmony to create one living being. And the two aspects of the tree are just, in constant communication with each other, pulling water up, pulling, energy from the sun down. And that is what is feeding the two processes. So I was just very I just really had a new appreciation for trees as beings and what we can learn from them. And I really had this appreciation for just how they, as something that seems so, simple and common, how they really are a pure representation of where the male aspect and the female aspect are really working in harmony. And I mean, you could really dig, oh, forgive the pun, but dig deeper into the just all of the wisdom that you can kind of learn from even just the root aspect of a tree. The fact that it's below the surface, and it's not using any kind of sight, it's just using its sense of feeling to feel out the water and feel out the resources that it needs. Um, and just the intelligence of that intuitive sensing that plants really do um, to feed themselves, and how we can kind of incorporate those ideas into our consciousness. So how are we reaching out for things that are helping us grow? How are we grounding ourselves? How are we kind of using those intuitive feelings? Um, kept playing around with our consciousness, our points of consciousness, like moving that, just kind of being still and feeling different, feeling yourself within different aspects of your body, if that makes sense. Um, and just all of that. So there's really a lot that can go into that. I mean, and then when you have the leaves and their search for sunlight, their search for warmth, and just learning about how trees have adapted to things like that. The how branches will grow kind of point like looking upwards almost, or reaching up towards the sky, and how when trees grow together they'll tend to kind of try to outgrow each other to reach the most sunlight, and the way that plants will kind of grow in strange patterns because they're trying to reach the sun. Um, so I hope that this was easy to understand. If you are working on understanding the kind of yin yang aspects of the divine feminine and the divine masculine, I think one of the biggest struggles of learning about those things are just they're opposite archetypes, and it can be really, really hard to um, bring an understanding of how those work in harmony. So if you're struggling with understanding that, look to plant and tree energies to kind of help you understand those two polarities. And hopefully it will help you either in your own meditations or in your tarot readings. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in my next one.